Boom.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Sunday afternoon call. My name is Rayne Anderson, and I am your Diamond Upline Ambassador. And today, you guys have made such a commitment to joining on the weekend. I'm so proud of you for being here, and I promise you this is not a waste of your time. Please take notes, and I'm sure we are recording this call, but I'm a person who needs notes when I'm listening. So if that's you, please do that. Please be open-minded. And before we get started, I would love just to pray over us. So if everyone would just bow your heads for me and close your eyes. And Lord Father, we're just coming to you today, grateful for Plexus and the opportunities that are before us within this organization. Lord Father, I ask that you be with Bill and presents some amazing business ideas to us. And Father God, I just pray blessings over each and every person in our team for their business to flourish, that they would know blessings that are abundant and beyond any measure, and that we know that all those blessings come from you. We ask this in your precious Son's name, amen. So again, everyone, I'm so very grateful that you are here. And the fact that you've made the commitment today shows me that you really want to work your business. And so without wasting any time, I want to introduce to you someone who is an amazing leader on this team. He has a background in sales and management, and he has proven himself to be an incredible business person all the way around. But additionally, he is a senior Ruby ambassador with Plexus, Jen Mango's power partner and a life partner, and in addition, officially a recent title has been added, other mentor. So I'm so excited to introduce Jen Mango, and I know because I've already seen this presentation to his own team that he is going to be able to give you some business ideas, and I would just like to say some permissions in your business to work it a little differently. So take it away.
What a great introduction. Thank you, Rayne. And we love your leadership. I'm sure I speak for everyone on this call that you are a fantastic leader, and we love the example that you lead by. So with that out of the way, I'm going to share my screen so you all can follow along visually. You don't have to look at this face the whole time, but see something much more appealing. So bear with me while I do that.
Watch TV.
And I'm going to also mute everybody here, and you can unmute. I'm going to mute all. Boom. There we go. Alrighty, and I'm going to now share my screen. You should be looking at a PowerPoint presentation. Give me a thumbs up, Rayne, if you can see that. Good? Perfect. All right, so let's just jump into this. Notice that we gave this our training to our team just a little over 2 weeks ago, right at 2 weeks ago today. Focus on constant recruiting. So without further ado, let me just jump into this. If you've got questions, go ahead and write them down and save them for the end, because we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end of this, okay? All right, so I'm going to hit play, and hopefully this is going to work fantastically well. What you see on your screen right there, first off, is what I like to call the Costco membership. I'm sure those of you that have Costco's near you or are part of one have seen these different cards before, but I have them on this first slide because I want to illustrate a very unique difference that's going to tie into this whole presentation. The Costco card on the left-hand side that you see is the basically the business member. It's $55. And allows you to go shop at Costco. Same thing with the one on the right, the Gold Star member. No really additional benefits. You just are able to buy at wholesale. Now, let me minimize that. The one here at the bottom, this membership is called the executive member. And I can't see everyone, but you could probably give me a show of hands if you have the executive member card. I'm going to put my hand up and say that I've got this. But notice it's $110. It's double the price of a typical Costco membership. And we didn't have this one we've been Costco members for 10 years, but for the first 5, we had just the business membership. But it wasn't until someone prodded me and poked me and said, you know, you should consider being an executive member. And I'm like, well, what's the benefit? I'm going to spend double the price for a membership each and every year to get the same benefit. And they said, well, not exactly. You're actually going to get 2% back on every purchase that you make. Okay, well, I did the math in my head really quickly, and I realized, well, that could add up to a few bucks here or there. So the first year, that 2% back on my Costco membership with my wife and I, we'd actually force our purchase habits now to Costco, paid us around $82. So of the $110, $82 came back in the form of a check, and our next membership essentially was paid for less $28. So I got the benefit of getting the same prices as a business member, but I paid less for that membership. I can tell you after that first year, and thereabouts and going forward the last 4, that Costco basically pays me to be a member. So think about that. It costs double. Not everyone uses this membership, but really everyone should, because if you're shopping at Costco at all, you can pretty much shop for free if you depend on your spending habits. Okay, so keep that in the back of your mind as we move forward. All right, so focus on constant recruiting is the subject, and we're really going to focus on wholesale, or what I like to call direct use or personal use ambassadors. And this all started with a conversation with Nikki and Zach Hinkle. A couple weeks ago, Rainey and Jen were at the Jules training that was held here in Dallas. And I got to come visit Jen one night to go out to dinner, and I hadn't seen my wife in 2 days. And so we went out to dinner right over there in the Shops of Legacy in Plano. And then we moseyed on back to the hotel. And there was a big group of Jules sitting around having a conversation in the lobby. And so I just plopped myself down and sat next to Nikki by chance. And Nikki is a mathematician by trade. Her husband, Zach, runs an anti-terrorist software company. One of his clients is a very large credit card company, as well as being a pilot. So they're really astute people. And I just looked at Nikki and I said, "You're diamonds. What does your team do differently than others?" Just a general question. And Nikki's response just hit me straight in the gut. She said, "We love wholesale ambassadors." Okay, well, that's not contradictory what we've heard, but it's just different than what I've heard over the last 2.5 years. So we proceeded to talk for about 45 minutes. And some of the things that I wrote down that were NICISMs completely changed my paradigm and my thought process. And we've had a paradigm shift in the last 2 weeks. I'm going to give you some really cool news here at the end of this to show you how this really works, and it'll help your paradigms as well. So look at this first NICISM. $1,000 in PV is a red flag. In other words, if she has an ambassador who has $1,000 in PV, that's actually a bad thing to her. We'll talk about that in a second. Not everybody envisions themselves as a network marketer, but everybody loves a good deal. Okay, that stuck with me as well. The next thing about her business, and I should back up. Nikki is a diamond ambassador, so is her husband, and I believe they have 7 diamonds underneath them. So they kind of know what they're doing. Okay. The business is a numbers game, and it takes wholesale ambassadors to reach diamond. In other words, you're not going to have all business building ambassadors underneath you if you want to get to the diamond level. Along the way, you're going to have some people that just order product and just turn those points for you every month. And then it's a cycle. We get customers, we flip them to wholesale or personal use ambassadors, and then eventually some of those become business building ambassadors. So those are some NICISMs. We talked for 45 minutes. We had some chats afterwards, and then I formulated this plan that we've been implementing the last 2 weeks, and I'll share those results with you here shortly. So here's the process that we trained our team 2 weeks ago today, and they've been following since. So number 1, we want people to start as a customer because we want them to love the products. We want them to have that 60-day money-back guarantee. And then after the first 30 days, we want to convert them, especially ones who are, and even if they're not on Triplex, I'll talk about that in a second as well. We want to convert them to and I'm going to use a different word that's on this, versus wholesale ambassador. We want to convert them to a personal use ambassador. We then want to add them to our team pages and let them absorb information at their own pace. We're going to stick with them just like we were a customer so that they learn to love the products more, and then gradually encourage them to share, and then we wash, rinse, and repeat. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, I have customers that are only buying Slim. I don't know why they would be a personal use ambassador, because they're going to have to spend $100 or more. Okay, great point. But here's the thing. When you have a customer, they're not exposed to all of the products that we have to offer. They're only getting that information from you. In other words, like, oh, I think you should be on Slim, or I think you should be on Triplex. If you're on Triplex, they're definitely spending over $100 a month as a preferred customer, certainly as a retail customer. But when they get exposed to a community, all right, of people who are sharing best practices, people who are sharing their experiences and their testimonies in a team page environment where it's not just you selling, but it's other people sharing, they're exposed to more products than what you could ever share with them one-on-one. So that's why becoming a personal use ambassador is so important, and adding them to the team page so that they can see everything that Plexus has to offer, not just a post every couple of days on your Facebook page of you trying to sell or share some generic information. Okay, I'll move on. And again, write your questions down. We're going to cover a lot of this again and repeat this over and over. So some keys to success in implementing this strategy is that once you bring someone on board and I keep using wholesale, to me, wholesale, we discovered, has a little bit of a negative connotation, kind of like a used car versus a pre-owned car. So we like to use the term personal use ambassador. So once on board as a personal use ambassador, product education is critical, because they're learning more and more than they would as a customer, like I just mentioned. They wind up taking more, they wind up feeling better, and then guess what? They start sharing more and more. Think about it this way. Your customers are not going to really share their success stories, because what's the benefit? But someone that's really invested as a personal use ambassador, who's getting to get the range of products at the lowest possible price, will do so. And this is the thing that I love what Nikki said. We do not want to let your customers see the 10% reduction in month 4. You want to convert them well beforehand. So think about this. 2 paradigms we talked about before is having $1,000 in PV because you've got customers there that could be doing much more for your business and much more in terms of getting more and more products. And then secondly, if they're on, and by the way, Jen and I are guilty of this, and we have so many others who are as well. If they're on board as a customer for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, that's actually not a good thing, because they're not, again, growing and sharing like they could be. I'll show you another example here in just a second, but these are some things that you want to do. You do not want to let them get to that 10% discount, because then converting to a wholesale ambassador or personal use ambassador loses all its luster, its excitement, and all of its savings. Okay, now the technique. So this will be posted, so you can certainly copy and paste this, but this is something that Nikki shared and they've used 1,000 times over, and so we've copied it literally word for word and used this technique. I'll read it for you. This can be over the phone, this can be an email, this can be a text message, this can be a Facebook message, whatever you're comfortable with. Hey there, I know you're loving your products, and I just want to make sure I let you know about the opportunity to get them even cheaper. Remember, we're not telling them, I'll pause, we're not telling them that they've got to sell. We're not telling them that they have to post. All we want them to do is get the products at the cheapest price. And we all know the cheapest price is when you are an ambassador. So I'll let you know about the opportunity to get them even cheaper. It's only $34.95 per year to be a wholesale or personal use ambassador, sort of like a Costco membership. And then you'll get the products for even cheaper, and you can set up an auto order or just order in your back office as needed. When you join, you'll be set up a website. So if you ever do have someone interested in ordering, they can order from you and you can get paid on their orders. But don't worry, by any means do you have to sell. The opportunity will just be available to you if you decide to. There's no quotas. There's no hidden fees. Let me know if you want me to remind you before your auto ship orders go through, so we can flip you over to personal use ambassador to get it cheaper. That's the technique. I'm not going to tease you and tell you what's happened the last 2 weeks just yet. I'm going to wait until the end. So we're getting there. Okay. So let me give you the math, because I believe Nikki, and she's a mathematician, but I ran these numbers myself because I wanted to see if this made sense for our business. So we're in the middle of a convention contest right now. And you know that when we get customers or we get ambassadors, we get points towards that convention credits. We also get commissions, obviously, based on our production. And so I want to see what would happen in 3 months if I converted $2,500 in PV, right? I did $2,500 in PV versus having the same number of customers become ambassadors. So, I think it's roughly around 20 or so that became ambassadors versus customers. So here's the math. If you did $2,500 in PV for 3 months, you would earn $600 in commission, $500 in preferred bonuses. I'm assuming that every single one of these is a preferred customer. You'd also earn winner's dinner through the convention. And then that would be a total of $3,300 in 3 months. So the downside of that, and that's, by the way, that's probably great. $1,100 a month, it's fantastic. The downside is you'd have no growth and the pay points get reduced. So let me explain that. We know that pay points consist of our profitability of the company. 50% to the ambassadors, 50% to the company. However, with preferred customers, those preferred customer bonuses get taken out of our 50%. And that was confirmed just a few weeks ago by Jules' discussions with our CEO. So not every customer is the same. A retail customer and a preferred customer have a different point level, in other words, because those preferred bonuses get taken out. So we actually have pay point reduction when we have preferred customers versus direct use or personal use ambassadors. So that's the math, though. $3,300. I'm sure a lot of people would say $1,100 a month is fantastic. I wouldn't disagree. Now let's look at the math when I did it for converting those people to ambassadors. I just talked about this. There's the math on the preferred bonuses. So we'll move on from that. And before I get the math on the ambassadors, everyone know what this picture is? You've probably seen it floating around Facebook. This was session 3 in Dallas, the one before Rainey and Jen went, where, as well as Heather and Crede, where the Jules raised their hands who just joined to be wholesale ambassadors. Now, if you try and do the math, it's about 85 or 90% of the room who said they had no intention of sharing. So shifting your paradigm, you've got all these customers who just want to be customers, but don't really understand the opportunity available to them by being just a wholesale or preferred, a personal use ambassador. So those are Jules, probably in that room on a monthly basis. There's, if you did the math, that's about $3 million in income in that room right there. So let that sink in for a second. Personal use ambassadors had no intention of sharing, and there's about $3 million a month in commissions in that room. Okay, so here's the math I did when converting ambassadors over the next 3 months. So if I had roughly 30 customers and I converted them to ambassadors, my points would scale from 150, because remember, we get pay points on every ambassador that does over $100 in PV. From 150 in month 1 to 300 to 450. So my total income for that 3 months and just from points would be around $2,700. I get another $2,227 in business builder bonuses, and I'd also hit senior gold. So if you're sitting right here as an ambassador, a silver ambassador, you could turn senior gold in 3 months or less by converting customers to ambassadors. And then your minimum total income in that 3 months time frame would be a little over $5,000, $5,627.50. So the downside is that you wouldn't have preferred customers from that short-term income. You wouldn't have that short-term revenue from PV. All right, but let's keep moving forward. So we compare it On a short-term basis, you're making more by converting your customers to personal use ambassadors. But long-term, as Rainey can attest to, pay points are where it's at. There's no arguing it. There's no denying it. The other thing that I asked Nikki and many other diamonds that were there, I think it was asked in the session, the average PV of a diamond ambassador is a little less than $1,000 a month. So I know we have these ideas that diamonds must have $10,000 in PV every month. It's quite the opposite. They're converting their customers into personal use ambassadors, and eventually some of those personal use ambassadors become business building ambassadors, and that's how we grow. Let's move on. So here's the next steps. If you are like me and you are sold on this, this is what we did for our team. I would encourage you to think about doing for yours. Number one, you still want to get customers, because that's how we build a business, and we want to build loyalty, and we want to build our brand, and we want to build excitement and see great testimonies and great progress from our customers. So number one is to get a customer. In that first 30 days, you want to find out what they're loving about the product. So really nothing's changed. You want to find out what they're loving. And then the verbiage that I showed you earlier under the technique, you want to share that with them within that first 30 days before they can have a chance to order that second round of products. That, hey, there's a cheaper way. Again, there's no pressure. We're not getting them to try and sell. We're not trying to teach them about the comp plan. We're not trying to share with them that they got to post twice a day. We just want them to try it as a personal use ambassador because they love it. So there's no reason to use the guarantee now that we had when they were a customer. Let's just get it the cheapest possible way. Do not let them get to their 4th month discount. So if it doesn't happen in month 1 or month 2 or month 3, you better make sure it happens before month 4, because otherwise you won't have an opportunity typically to move them to a personal use ambassador. Convert them, step 5, then add them to the team page. This is critical. Even if they're not going to be sharing, remember, it's not about teaching them how to sell or how to share. It's engaging them in a community of other like-minded individuals who are trying to find better health and sharing best practices. So, as my dog is going crazy down there, so that's the next step. Critical. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Add them to your team page. No pressure, nothing that they have to do. After that, after a period of 30 days or whatever that number looks like, you know what? Engage them to share. Hey, you know what? I noticed you've had some successes or you've tried some new products. I mean, if you're feeling comfortable because you're looking great, I've seen that you've lost weight, lost inches, you should share that on Facebook and just see what happens. I mean, worst case, you're going to have a few customers that help pay for your products. But again, there's no pressure to sell. It's let them come out and do that in their own time frame. And then I love this, which is wash, rinse, and repeat. We're going to get a customer. We're going to get feedback. We're going to share the verbiage. We're going to get them to convert before that 4th month. Okay, so let me make sure I don't have any other slides. And before I answer questions, I was teasing you the whole time. Let me give you what's happened with our team in the last 2 weeks, and specifically today. Since we've implemented this strategy, ambassadors who said, I have no one else to talk to, I can't find any ambassadors that want to join my team, have added multiple ambassadors from their existing customer base. And it was simply reaching out with that verbiage. And typically what would happen is that customers would say, yeah, sure, let's do it, sign me up. So, like the easiest pitch you've ever heard, because as we mentioned before, not everyone sets out to be a network marketer unless your name is, Chloe Kasich. I mean, not everyone sets out to do it, but everyone loves a good deal. So we're giving them the best possible deal after they've become a customer. So since we've done this, I think before today, we've added 70 plus ambassadors, most of them coming from our customer base. Today alone, we've added nearly 30 ambassadors coming from our customer base. So let that sink in for a minute. And just know that when you are getting to that, you want to get to $500 in PV to maximize the comp plan and earn that 25% commission. But if you're at 2,000 or 3,000 in PV, you've got a whole host of ambassadors sitting there waiting to be turned. That's great for PV, and it's great for helping, increase that short-term income. But what you're missing out is that you've got business builder opportunities. You've got people who could be jewels sitting out there in your customer base, and they're just not ready yet. But if you give them a little nudge and show them it's cheaper and let them do it at their own pace, they could eventually become your next superstar. So that's a presentation. That's what Team Mango is doing. And we know that this is the right way to go because we're seeing the fruit, and it's becoming very, very easy to get people excited. And we're seeing great momentum on our team. So with that, I'm going to turn off this presentation. I'm going to leave the recording going for some questions. And you can unmute yourself when you are ready. There we go. I can see everybody again. And fire away. We'll start with Rainey. Rainey, any thoughts that you want to share, add before we go to questions?
I had to unmute myself. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for the presentation. I was privileged enough to see this a couple days after Phil rolled this out to Team Mango, and to see their results have been amazing. And what I would say to you is a couple-fold. One being is this is exactly how I grew my business. I was that person who did have 10,000 PV in the beginning. But what I did was I rolled all of these people over to, like Phil said, my PV y'all today is under $1,000. And that is because most of you that are my level ones became ambassadors. Whether you were a wholesale ambassador or you were actually working the business, that was about conversion. Bill has taken the time to break it out into a way that gives us permission to not have a high PV. And I know for some of you that have that, that is scary. But I want to tell you that big picture, you are missing the boat if you don't start converting those customers over to, even if it's just wholesale ambassadors. Like Phil said, as a preferred customer, they are weighing down that pay point. And so if we could convert our customers over to wholesale users, that would help the pay point as well. Because as Phil mentioned, 100 in PV versus preferred to customer are, you are better off from a pay point perspective to do this from a wholesale side. Additionally, when they do become ready, because 9 times out of 10 we find that these people do become ready to become some type of business worker, they're all set. And I believe you mentioned this in the presentation, Phil. I have to tell you all, we have maxed out this call. And if you saw me at my phone, it was because I was responding to literally dozens of people letting me know they couldn't get on. So we made a great choice, and thankfully Phil's far better at technology than I am, that I know it will actually transfer. We'll have this recorded for everybody. So please know that if you are, well, you all are on, but if someone from your team didn't make it on, that this will be available to them later. What do you think, this evening, Phil, or first thing in the morning?
It'll be no later than first thing in the morning, probably this evening. Okay,
great. So we have that. And then additionally, like I said, I want you all to be open-minded to this, because I truly believe if we implement this as a team, we will see a shift in your business. And the cool thing is you don't, like Phil said, you don't have to talk about comp plan. You don't have to talk about, how you run the business. You don't have to go through a new hire training with them. But what I would encourage you to do is make shifts in your team pages, and also highlight product and make it somewhat customer focused as well. Because, if you did a once a week product highlight, that would help your ambassador that is a wholesale user to learn more about the product that maybe they're not using. But then in addition, you're also training your team and motivating them that they're learning as they go.
That's right. And think about it. I mean, one of the things that I took for granted early on is that I've had almost 20 years of professional sales experience working with large corporations and doing sales calls on a daily basis. And so I'm really comfortable with handling objections and doing pitches and all these things. But I venture to say that 90% of you or more don't do that on a daily basis. So, and most importantly, the customers that you're dealing with are probably not in professional business-to-business sales either. So getting them to say, yeah, you're going to join, you're going to be an ambassador, you're going to start sharing, you're going to start closing, you're going to do all the things that you all have grown to do and done so well and take advantage of. That's a lot for people to digest and to say, oh my gosh, I just want to lose some weight and not have all this pressure. Being a personal use ambassador takes all that away and allows them to do that at their pace. It still benefits us because we need personal use ambassadors to get to those levels of emerald, sapphire, and diamond. They're critically important to our business, and some of them are rock stars in the making. They just have to do it at their pace.
Absolutely. And for those of you that are curious, when I ranked up to diamond, I had 2 emerald ambassadors under me. Jen was on her way. She turned, I believe it was within the next 2 months, and I had lots of gold. So I want you to understand that we need those 5 points, and you can do it with having a lot of those personal use ambassadors, wholesale ambassadors, however you would like to refer to them. But if you get that middle ground real thick, you can rank to a jewel level fairly easily.
All right, so questions.
And I encourage you all, I know that first question is always the toughest to get out, but I know questions will roll. So let's utilize this time wisely and ask those vital questions to Phil.
Okay, Delana Hill has one. Actually, I have 2 if I could ask.
You may.
So can you hear me?
That was 3 because you've asked. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So, and you made me forget my questions. Okay, 2 things. I have about I'm getting really close to going gold. I mean senior gold, and I know that it's because I have converted a lot of my preferreds. But I have a patch of about 2,000 PV that they just will not, because of my verbiage before. It's like, no way, lady. I have really struggled to move them. Would you suggest even offering to pay their entrance fee just to get them to go?
That's a personal, that's a great question. That is completely up to you. I think there's some creative things that you can do, and you can work with your upline on that.
Okay.
I would say this, that there's really no reason, if you utilize the verbiage that we just shared, we're having
Try
great
it again, maybe? Yeah. Okay.
And the other thing that I'll say to that is utilize your upline to do a 3-way call, because sometimes they're like, I've heard the hammer. Delana's hitting me with the hammer.
Right.
Or the jab. And
right.
Here comes Rainey with the hook.
Okay.
Sometimes it takes a combination for it to be a knockout.
Okay.
And your second question.
Yep. And then the second question that I had, what was it? Oh, would you suggest when you're trying to change the direction of your team page, would you suggest, like for a while, I guess the personal use people are not looking at that page at all. I would almost call it avoidance of the page, because you just I just can't get them on. What about tagging them? If your team isn't so big that initially you could tag them and say, on a post, hey, all my personal users, I just wanted to point out this great product and a feature of it, just to kind of get them back on the page. Does that
Absolutely.
make sense?
You bet. Absolutely.
Okay.
You can't force them to do anything, but you want to include them as much as you can and try and give them as much material that they can ingest at their pace. So
okay. That'd just be a way to get them to look. Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Lauren, I see your questions over here. Would you mind asking them so I could do them one at a time versus reading them out loud?
Sure, I can do that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this, by the way. I really am enjoying this.
Well, Rainey paid me a ton of money, so I'm glad to do it.
So the first question that I have is, what do you do? I have a lot of customers that I had tried to transition them, but unfortunately they have been customers for a very long time, very long time. So do you kind of just let them go, or do you continue to transition them? How do you approach that?
So this is where, great question. So this is where I like to use the assumptive sale. And so and I don't know, Lauren, I'm not saying you've done this, but just in general, where we're, hey, I've got this great opportunity. You can save a little bit more money. I think this would be great. What do you think? Transition it to something like that's more assumptive. Lauren, I know you've been a customer for 10 months. There's a much better deal. It's being a personal use ambassador. You're going to get it at the cheapest possible price, and it's going to be easier for you to order. So we just want to set you up on that today. Does that work? That's the assumptive sale.
Love that.
And so do that, because if you think about it like this, when you all go to a restaurant and you get the meal and the waiter brings it out, what's the last thing the waiter does? They give you a bill. You're expecting that. You're expecting to get the bill. You're expecting to pay. When someone, don't fool yourselves and think that when you're reaching out to a customer that they don't expect you to close them. They do. They're waiting for it. And so many times we just don't give them that bill. So I encourage you to reach out and just say, use the assumptive sale. This is a cheaper way of doing it. Let's just get you set up today. What do you think? And you'll find at least a portion of those people who've been stagnant or not done anything will actually go for it and say, okay, yeah, sure, set me up.
Okay, cool. My second question is, I have quite a few customers that are just like ProBio 5, X Factor, way under 100 PV. Do you go ahead and transition them over without them wanting to be at 100 PV and then wait for them to catch up? Or do you try to get them to 100 PV before you transition them?
So great question. Here's how we look at it. Someone that's using ProBio and that's it, we know that there are so many other products they can benefit from. And we encourage everyone when we transition them to a personal use ambassador, that's not, it's this $34.95, but they have the chance to get the products at the absolute lowest price one time with the welcome pack. And that's the key, that we want them to get the welcome pack. So we use that as a way of saying, you've been doing ProBio, but look, there's a really much cheaper way to get the products that you want and take advantage of some new ones that you haven't tried yet. Now, if you love the products, you're going to need to, have a commitment of $100 a month. We don't want to, so people who are spending less than $100 now, we let them know this is a commitment, and that might be a deal breaker for them, and that's okay. You're going to need some of those customers and whatnot. So we don't focus on people who are just spending over $100 because we don't want to assume anything other than the sale. We don't want to assume that someone can't benefit from more. So we give everyone the opportunity, let them know that the $100 commitment, and then they can decide, well, okay, I think I'll just stick with this. Or you'll find that someone say, all right, well, I'll give that a shot. Now, I'll tag on to that comment as well. The key is when they're doing $100, right, they're going to be turning points for you every month. That's the important thing. If they were a customer, sometimes they can turn off, right? If they're a retail or even a preferred, they could just not order that month and you don't get the credit for the PV. It's really no different if you take them from a customer to an ambassador. Some months you might get their points, other months you might not. So they still have that flexibility, whether they're a personal use ambassador or a customer, of how they want to order. We want to make sure that they know that you're going to have an auto ship. If you're a personal or preferred customer, you have the same thing. And there is this $100 commitment, but you're already spending $120 with your triplex. Now you're going to spend $104. So I know I'm kind of going a little bit long on that, Lauren, but hopefully it makes sense. We want to give them the opportunity to get more product at the absolute lowest price, and then they can decide going forward how much they decide to purchase and when they want to purchase.
Okay, that kind of answers my last question.
Yeah.
On the inconsistent purchasing wholesale ambassadors. How do you deal with that or encourage them to be more consistent?
Right, and so that's the thing. When we get them on the page and we get them consistently seeing all the different updates, think about it this way. They're going to get more information from others than they would from you as a customer. Being a personal use ambassador, they're going to be exposed to a community of people who are taking the products consistently, whereas as a customer, they're on an island, and their only contact is you. And you're not contacting them every day to make sure that they're taking their product or reminding them about the benefits of it. You might hit them once a month if you're lucky. So we expect our personal use ambassadors, because we're taking this sort of philosophy, to actually be more engaged, more active, and more consistent than most of our customers.
Thank
So
you.
we basically don't want to give them an option to be on the team page. They're just, when they convert over, you automatically put them on your team page.
Yep, that's right.
Those
I have
are
a couple
great
questions.
questions.
Go for it.
Okay, so I have a super concrete brain, so just bear with me. But so my understanding, my understanding from like a year and a half ago or something is that the pay points went low because everybody was converting their ambassador or their preferred customers and nobody was buying over 100 PV. So our pay points dropped. So is that not the case?
Yeah, that's not the case.
Okay. Can you explain that just a little bit more so I can grasp it
Sure.
with both hands?
Okay, so let's just use the example of someone that spends $200 a month in product. Now, if they're a retail customer, which means there's no bonuses attached to Jan Touchberry that she's going to get, it's just retail purchasing, that $200 in PV is worth $3.60 in pay points. So in other words, $1.80 per $100 in PV. Okay? Following that so far?
Okay.
So every $100 in PV is worth $1.80 to the pay point. So somebody spending $200, that's $1.80 times 2, $3.60
Okay.
pay point. Okay. Now that same $200, let's assume that there's $50 in preferred customer bonuses. Okay. So those $50 in preferred customer bonuses get backed out of that $200 in PV. So now the PV is only $150.
Oh.
Which means instead of a $3.60 pay point, it's a $2.70 pay point. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's helpful.
Good. So
Okay.
when they're a personal use ambassador, there's no preferred bonuses. So that PV
Right.
is truly that PV.
Okay. So second question.
Yeah.
And it really tags on to what Lauren was talking about customers who aren't buying the 100 PV. In
Mhm.
your verbiage that you're sending out to people, it states no quota. But
Right.
really, there is a quota.
So that
It's
so we've
100
changed
PV.
that. Yeah, that's good. So we've updated that and said it says no quota except for your own $100 in purchases. So we've made that clear in what we sent. So that was the change we made in the last 2 weeks since I did this presentation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
we don't, there's no misleading. We definitely, there's no quota outside what you're already spending in $100 per month.
Okay. There's some graphics out there that like the 3 ways to buy, and it says no quota, and that kind of bugs me. So
I get it.
glad that you changed it.
Yeah, cool.
I would like to add something to this. I think it's a very safe place to start with your customers that are purchasing 100 in PV or more. Start there.
Absolutely.
You all do not worry at this moment with your solo ProBio orders or under 100 PV. Get comfortable in the verbiage with those that will benefit you. We want you to be comfortable with this, right, Phil? We want them to be comfortable with this.
Yep.
We want this just to flow, and we don't want you to feel like you're, for lack of a better word, hoodooing anybody.
Mhm.
So start with your people that are getting 100 PV or more. That makes the very most sense.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi. So when we move a customer to a personal use ambassador, we're talking about them having their auto ship on,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
As opposed to having it turned off.
that's right. That's right.
Okay.
Absolutely. And again, it's no different. If they're a customer, they could turn off their preferred customer status at any point in time. And an ambassador can do the same. So yeah, we want their auto ship on so it benefits us. I mean, they're getting it at the cheapest price. Here's the things that you must do. And really, it's no different than being a preferred customer. You're just getting it cheaper.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I have a question. This is Lene Townsend.
Hello.
I started this actually a couple months ago. Sorry if my baby cried. But anyway, and they were spending the 100, and they went over, but now they don't. Like all of a sudden, they just stopped doing the 100. So how can I think about like maybe I should send them like a P96 sample or something to get them to try a different product. But it's just I have so many that are getting to that point that now they're only spending 96 or they're only spending 86. So what do you suggest that because I went by talking to Rainey probably a year ago about this, and I thought, okay, I'm going to start doing it. How she started, moving her people over, and it did work. But now they aren't, buying the 3 again. They're buying the, product.
Rainey, I'll let you tackle that one, or what your thoughts are.
Okay, and I'm so sorry because I was multitasking when that question came through. So Lene, I caught the very end of it. So just tell me, you've converted people, they're not ordering 100
Yeah.
PV?
So I have about 10 people now that were at 100 when I converted them over. And now, make a long story short, I don't get the PV and I don't get the 5 points because they only buy like 2 products now instead of the total 100. So, a couple weeks ago, I was like, well, maybe I should send them a sample of P96 or whatever, but I just needed some suggestions on how to get those. I don't even know how many. There could even be 10 by now. They just go down to like 96.
I think Jen wants to jump in.
So yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead, Jen, and then I probably have either you've answered it for me or I have something to chime in, but go ahead.
No, hi everybody, and thank you for letting me pop in. Lene, this is going to be one of the things that I told Phil would be a challenge for our team, and what my responsibility is to do, and all of my leaders' responsibility to do, is to make sure that your team page is communicating new products, that you're communicating, let's try this, let's do a challenge. Instead of sending every single person that's doing that a sample of 96 and not knowing if they're going to take it or not, do a challenge to say, hey, go in and add something to your order new this month, comment below, and somebody's going to get picked for a bag of 96. So instead, your audience, and you're going to lean on your leaders and say, hey guys, jump in and make the post attractive. If you've added somebody, then they're probably tired of hearing you talk about triplex. But if they totally relate to Katie Wheeler, and Katie Wheeler suddenly is talking about X Factor and how awesome it is and how it's kept her kids well, and this other person can relate because they have kids the same age, they're going to jump in on that. And that's what that community and that page will do, is continue. Your page is going to have to change a little bit to drive business as well as communicate and raise up leaders.
Well, and in addition to that, I love that response, because we did address that earlier in the call, that we need to now change the focus of our team page to make it a little more broader scope. But in addition, Lene, what I envision for these personal usage ambassadors, they're still your customer. So you're going to have to reach out to them and treat them just as such. So when you see them drop below 100 PV, you're going to reach out to them just like you would as a preferred customer, and you're going to introduce a product to them as well as rely on your team page. So, by no means when we switch these people over to ambassadors do we start treating them as, quote, ambassadors. We are not kicking them out of the nest and teaching them to fly. This is not the time for that. We still want to hold their hand very tightly and introduce them to product, as well as through our team page, entice them to the business side of it.
Perfect.
Does that answer your question, Lene? Help
Awesome.
you?
Any more? These are good.
Real good.
All right.
Okay. I think we have experts now, and so I am grateful for each one of you on this call. We maxed out the call again, and that we've made some people upset, but the great thing is that we have recorded the call. In addition, I want to wrap up with a couple of team announcements. And then we will end the call for the afternoon. Phil, I want to thank you for your expertise, your time, and your willingness to pour into the big team. And so thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's very well done. So we're grateful for you for that.